G'day everyone, welcome back to the channel. For those that are new here, my name is Kerry Corney. I'm a woodturner based in Brisbane, Australia. In this week's video, I'm going to show you all the chucks that I have, as well as the accessories for the chucks. And then I'm going to go through other bits and pieces that have worked for me really well in the past, what I'm using now, and as well as bits that improve my production and increase my output, and things that just help along the way. So hopefully you get something out of this video that you can incorporate into your wood turning practice. So let's get into it. Alrighty, so the first thing I want to do is talk about chucks, and then I want to move into the accessories for the chucks. So first chuck is the VM120 chuck, which these two chucks here are also VM120s. It's made by Vicmarc here in Australia. Very cool. The max RPM is 2,500, and that's all written, as well as these numbers and holes on the back of this really strong back plate here. That prevents dust and debris from getting inside the 5:1 ratio scroll mechanism inside this chuck. So really good gripping power with these chucks, as well as these numbers here and the holes are indexing holes for those people out there that have lathes that don't have an indexing capability. You can use the backs of these chucks. And now we work our way around. This set of dovetail jaws here are the V00678 dovetail jaws made by Vicmarc as well, hence the V, and they're 148 millimeters external diameter, and then 126 millimeters internal diameter. I use these jaws predominantly on turning large salad bowls with that great and large surface out gripping power, as well as expanding this section here. You can expand into the back of large platters into that mortise, and a larger surface area creates more stability when I'm turning, especially on those really large pieces. So a great set of dovetail jaws on a really good chuck. Now this set of dovetail jaws here are a V00677, Vicmarc again. They're 128 millimeters in diameter and 106 millimeters internally. Same principles, just not on a larger scale. So the bowls are a little bit smaller, but I'm still able to expand to go into the back of a mortise for a platter and grip down really well on salad bowls and other bits and pieces, as well as square pieces. You can put practically anything inside these chuck jaws. They work an absolute treat. So if you're turning smaller little bowls, you can also use this set of chuck jaws as well as the previous chuck jaws to turn them around and slip the bowl in there if it's around that diameter, and you can turn the back of the bowls off. So just another little thing you can do with these chuck jaws. Now this set of jaws here are the shark jaws. You might see Richard Raffin using similar jaws to these. They work an absolute treat. They've got these serrated sort of teeth on the inside, just here, and they've also got the section on the outside here, so you can expand into the back of a mortise on the back of a platter or a plate or something like that. This set of chuck jaws here, the shark jaws, is the V00694 model of shark jaws. They don't have serrated edges on the outside of these. And now the external diameter is 83 millimeters with an internal of 65 millimeters, and the height from this section here to the top is 53 millimeters. So really good all-round sort of set of jaws. These I particularly like turning a lot of pieces with these jaws, because you can also get a little bit creative and take one of the jaws out to turn spoons. So the handle comes out this way, and your spoon will sit on the inside there. So it works really well because you've got those steps on the inside that you can utilize. Great set of jaws on a really good chuck, yet again a VM120 chuck. Now the next set of chuck jaws that I want to talk about is on this VM100 chuck here. Now I know what you might be thinking, this is a tiny chuck compared to those other chucks there, but exceptional gripping power of this chuck. The scroll is a 4.5:1 ratio scroll internally there. Same principle as before, it's got this back plate here, all with the identification VM100, made in Australia by Vicmarc, Max RPM on this one is 3,000 RPMs. Great little chuck, can't beat it. It's got, this is the same chuck that turned the 700 bowls, and I've got some exciting news about this year as well. But the chuck jaws on this here are the V00657 chuck jaws. External, it's seen better days, this I might have to true it up a little bit. The external diameter is 47 millimeters and the internal is 33 millimeters. Works an absolute treat. Great little chuck. Moving into the different dovetail jaws. So the first set of dovetail jaws that I want to talk about are the V00682 Vicmarc dovetail jaws. They have an external diameter of 223 millimeters, internally 200 millimeters, and a height of 18 millimeters there. The one reason that I use these jaws for are coring out really hard, dense Australian hardwoods. And if you have turned some of our Australian hardwoods, you know what I'm talking about. So I need that maximum gripping power on a super large tenon when I'm coring out those bowls. They do mention it in their user manuals with Woodcut bowl saver to have an exceptionally large tenon. I think it's half the overall diameter of your piece should be the tenon. So that's why I have those jaws there, and I normally mount them up, well I do mount them up on the VM120 chucks. Alright, so the next set of jaws that I want to talk about are the step jaws, and these are the V00696 step jaws, made by Vicmarc again, as well as all the rest of them. They are an exceptionally cool set of jaws, and I believe Richard Raffin had some input in designing these jaws, don't quote me on that, but you can already see the beauty about these jaws. You could turn multiple pieces in a day or throughout your workshop, and you don't have to keep taking the chuck jaws off one other chuck to suit the piece that you have. So working our way down the steps, so we've got an external diameter of 127 millimeters. Great for those expanding into the back of a mortise for a platter. Then internally, the first step just here is 111 millimeters. Then the next step down is 97 millimeters, then down to 70 millimeters, all the way down to 50 millimeters down at the base there. I'm yet to put these on one of my VM120 chucks, but I will be in the future. You can see that they're brand new, but I am keen to start trialing these out and giving them a go. So yeah, exciting. You can probably hear it in my voice. I'm excited to start using these, but yes, cool set of jaws. They're going to add a lot of value to my practice. All right, so the next set of chuck jaws here comes off a VM120 chuck. The standard jaws for those chucks, the outside diameter for when you're making your mortise is 68 millimeters, internal is 48 millimeters. A great sort of size tenon with that 5:1 ratio locking power of the VM120 chuck makes a really good little set of chuck jaws here. But I did switch to the shark jaws, like I previously said before. But these set of jaws comes with the chuck, with the key, and as well as your wood screw there. Now, you might be looking at this just here and wondering what this is. So this is a safety collar. So when you are using your chucks, see that indentation just there in the back of the chuck. This goes over the top of that and then goes over the spindle, so it all locks together. So when you are turning in reverse and going back and forth all the time, you will never have the risk of the chuck spinning off the lathe and your piece come crashing to the ground. So a safety collar comes on all our Vicmarc lathes. Now, a bit of controversy when it comes to face plates. Some people like them, some people don't. I do like face plates. They're a very secure way of fitting your pieces to the lathe. This is 150 millimeters in diameter, 6 inches. Great piece of kit when you are securing bowls and platters to the lathe. The only downside is that you do have to put the 4 screws in. It is a bit of a pain, but it does create a really secure, safe way of attaching your pieces to the lathe. So now, on the whole, talking about face plates. This is still a Vicmarc 6-inch or 150mm faceplate, but I'm not too sure if you've seen this before, but these have spikes in them. So when I am roughing out pieces, all I have to do is drill a hole down into the face of the blank, and then this stub arbor, and I got this cool little idea of making this off Glenn Lucas. So the stub arbor sits on the lathe like that, the hole on the blank comes up to meet that, and the spikes embed themselves into the timber so you don't get any of that turning. Super fast way of doing it, instead of screwing in 4 screws at a time, which I used to do when I started. You bring up the tailstock, secure it all off, and then shape up your blank. There is ways of making these, which I have done. I went down to my local engineer shop, found some screws down there, he sharpened them up for me and made a stub arbor for this, just copied an old drive dog, and away we went. So these are bowl jaws here by Vicmarc, the V00674 jaws. You can see they're massive. I had to go to the overhead camera for this set. I do have a smaller set just here that are 285mm in diameter. These are 485mm in diameter. Max RPM of 600, and you'll see it's got these red plastic tabs all the way around which secure the bowl or the platter that you're working on. They have 2 convex sides and 2 concave. You will also see that I've got this material on all these pieces, as well as painter's tape on the red tabs. This is cork. I got a great tip from Glenn Lucas to use cork on the face of these bowl jaws, just to prevent any chance of the bowl touching the metal and scratching the face of the bowl. So that's one thing that I want to avoid. You put all the time and work in, and then you end up with a minor scratch, just sends you to nearly makes you cry. So great idea putting that cork there, as well as I've put painter's tape on these red tabs to stop any chance of scratching my finished pieces. I used these when I did start when I was getting going, and I have used them quite extensively. The one thing about using these is you have to sacrifice one of your larger chucks. So when you are using these jaws, you will have to sacrifice one of your VM or your larger chucks to suit the bowl jaws. Just one of those things that you have to, hence the reason why I've got so many, and I will be getting more in the future. But bowl jaws, great addition. All right, so the next piece of kit that I want to talk about is this big foam pad here that you can see is attached to 2 pieces of MDF just there. There's a thread that matches my M30 spindle for my lathe. You just have to find a thread for yours, or just go and purchase yourself a faceplate to suit. That is held together with all these screws here and this foam. And now this is a great way, you can already see all the lines that have gone around it, putting bowls and reversing bowls and platters on the back of your pieces. You still need to bring up the tailstock to secure the bowl up against it there, so you will have to tidy up that little stub that gets left behind. But another great little way when you have, it's just great having different ways of doing things when you're in a bit of a pinch, and it's always good to have an options up your sleeve. And this is relatively cheap to make, very cheap to make. Something that I want to quickly talk about, if you are struggling to balance up the bowls when using a vacuum chuck, or you are using the foam pad idea. So this is just a live thread adapter that goes onto the back of your chuck like so, threads in. That sits into the tailstock like so. So then you can grip down on the tenon, bring that piece up to your vacuum chuck, and then it puts it in perfect center for you. So it's a great bit of kit. I didn't use it as much as what I thought I would, because I got really good at centering up bowls and platters. But that's just another little secondary in your pocket you can use when you're in a bit of a jam. And now when it comes to vacuum chucks, this is the V00122 150mm vacuum chuck. You might see this massive bit of rubber that I've added to the vacuum chuck here because I was getting some marks from the rubber that was already on the chuck. Great bit of kit still, great for reversing bowls. You can just turn the suction on, remove the tenon, sand, put a finish on, next piece. There's no expanding and contracting all the time and then changing the indicating red tabs to suit the size. It's just on, off, and you will find, which I have found, a lot of other uses for this vacuum chuck that I thought when you're trying to do a bit of detail on something, you can just suck it on and then you can brand multiple pieces at a time without worrying about marking the inside of your bowls and platters and pieces. So great piece of kit. This is a homemade vacuum chuck here, and now this is a small little face plate and this vacuum chuck I use to shape up, polish those 700 bowls in the end with. It's got a rubber floor protector piece, so a screw goes in that hole there, and they mount that below chairs and table legs and things like that to stop scratching the surfaces. So I've just epoxied that onto the bottom and then made sure everything was running true. I just turned the rubber so it was, when it spins on the lathe, it spins beautifully true. As you can see, it's got a bit of a, it's seen better days, let's be honest, but it works an absolute treat when I'm tidying up little small pieces. So that's my little homemade vacuum chuck. You can make multiple different types, and I've seen people use PVC pipes with sponges and things. Whatever works and whatever is safe will do the job. And now this is a bowl reversing plate. Glenn Lucas coined the idea. As you can see there, it's got that gap in the middle, so when a bowl dries, the side grain will shrink in, which the side grain sits here, and then the end grain will dip in. So the end grain sits in this gap, and then the side grain sits on this corrugated rubber just here. Provides a really safe way of remounting cord bowls, and then you can true up the back and reform the tenon. So great piece of kit. It's held securely on the back with a face plate. You have most likely seen me use this before. So when you are coring out, I highly recommend making one. I'll put a link in the description below of how to actually make this. It's one of Mr. Lucas's videos, so find it there. So now when you purchase a chuck, you will get your VM120 or your VM100. You will get your standard chuck jaws to suit the chuck that you have purchased. You also get your wood screw and your chuck key. When it comes to using the wood screw, I tend to not use the full length of the wood screw. I have some MDF packers, so then I'm only using the minimal amount that I have to use for the piece, depending on the depth and the size of piece that I am turning. The benefit of using wood screws is that they will speed up your workflow and make things, you'll be quite productive when you are using a wood screw over drilling 4 holes all the time when you're using a face plate. So yes, wood screws are a fantastic bit of kit. When it came to the chuck key, I tend to not use the blue-handled, T-handled hex keys. I went out and purchased a long-handled, a longer shaft key with a nicer handle for myself. And I just find this a little bit more ergonomic for myself. And I just find this a lot more useful. It's all dependent on yourself. So one thing about vacuum chucking, if you're unsure of the different size motor that you require and all the little bits and pieces that you need when you are using vacuum chucks, check this video out here. But I really hope you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it that you might not have seen before. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll talk to you directly. Cheers. Bye.